So before we start and say welcome to reserve seating, I just want to say it's all right. It's okay. You have something to live for.
Can you say it again?
Reserve seating starts now.
I have to say, gentlemen, doing this episode is cathartic. It feels really cathartic.
Do you know what that means, Rob?
I no.
I've been calling Thailand. I do want to get to the heart of the movie because I think that the movie is liked for its substance and not just its kind of memeability.
Totally.
So yeah, I mean, but yeah, there's some really killer dialogue in this movie. Can I just start and say what my favorite moment in the whole movie is?
Can we start by welcoming Mike for Mike Month?
No. Welcome everybody to reserve seating. We are celebrating. He's the king of February at reserve seating. We are celebrating Mike Month with Mr. Michael Pomaro. Hello, Mike. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Please
tell everybody what movie we're talking about this week.
We're talking about American Movie, directed by Chris Smith. One of my all-time favorite movies.
And you met some people involved in this movie, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, because when I was at film school, I was at Columbia College when this movie came out, and Chris Smith and Mark came to talk in one of my classes. So I got to meet them both, and Mark brought VHS copies of Coven.
Yeah.
And brought his daughter, and they were selling them afterwards, and he didn't bring enough. It was literally the guy in front of me got the last copy, but Mark apologized to me and said "man" at least 14 times in his apology.
I watched 12 minutes of Coven this afternoon. I just ran out of time, but I'm looking forward to finishing the remaining 24. It's cool. I like it.
I do have my VHS copy of it.
So it's Mike Month. Mike, of the F This Movie stable, you are, just like the people in this film, a short filmmaker as well. So is there a connection? Is there a connectivity between your love for this movie and your desire to be a filmmaker?
Yeah, for sure. This movie came out when I was in film school, and I just, on one hand, I love any movie about movies and making movies. So I'm a sucker for it anyway. But on another, even in film school, like I knew what I wanted to do, but I think I never had. It's not that I didn't have the drive, if you will, but I feel like it was in there somewhere, but I didn't know how to tap into it. I honestly don't think I figured that out for years and years and years. But I would watch a movie like American Movie, or American Movies specifically, and watch someone who like would not let anything stand in his way. And it was I literally, every time I watch it, even now, even watching it again the other day, like while I'm watching it, I'm like, I should turn this off and write something or make a movie. He's so inspiring to me. For the longest time, I would look to him and say, like, I don't know, maybe I'm not supposed to make movies because I don't, or I know I didn't. I got out of film school and I let, life got in the way, but I got in my own way too. And I went a totally different direction. I don't think Mark would not have done that. And I admired that so much and continue to. That so it always meant a ton to me. Even in film school, when I was in the throes of it, I understood, whether I could articulate it or not, that I couldn't quite tap into that thing that Mark had, but boy did I want to. And I saw it in Mark and was inspired by it. And honestly, again, continue to be. I love it.
I think, Rob, also, we've had the privilege of watching your short films and just seeing like your art and like the growth of your art and everything like that. It's been wonderful. And if this movie's to thank for any of that being out in the world, then it's well worth it. It's great.
Adam, this was the first time you've seen this movie, right?
Yeah. And there's no real reason why I hadn't seen it before. it just was, and I had so many opportunities also, because this was like a movie that was on video when I worked at Blockbuster. And I think with the exception of you, Mike, like I just wasn't around people who talked about it all that often. And that's surprising. And I think part of it is just because like I was never in film school, and like maybe I'm coming at it from like a different perspective, in the sense that like I'm so much more, not that anything in the movie is something I don't like, but my entry point is so much more the people and like their relationships and everything like that than anything having to do with the filmmaking. Like I find the filmmaking interesting, but I'm like so strange in the sense that I've never wanted to be a filmmaker. I've never wanted to be involved in like the process of making movies, even though I love movies so much. So the only thing I will say about that, because I definitely want to kick it over to Rob, is I've heard Quentin Tarantino talk about directing, and he said one of the things that a good director can do is they don't need to be like a costume designer, and they don't need to be a cinematographer. They just need to know how to articulate their vision to the people around them to put that on screen, what's in their head. And the thing that I kept taking away from this is Mark Borchardt could be a really great director, because I think he's able to do that. I think it's just, he's working with his friends and people who are not professional filmmaker or professional artists. And that's no knock on them. It's just, but I think that if he had a Tarantino crew, I
Right.
think even from seeing 12 minutes of Coven, I'm just like, he could make a really special movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find this movie so fascinating. It's been years since I've watched it, but this was definitely like this was one of my like early this is like around the time you're discovering the Criterion collection and stuff like that, when you're becoming the film nerd. And this one is watching it this time, especially, having it been a couple years. There's definitely an element of sadness to the movie. There's definitely an element of awkward, just comedy with the Mike character and everything like that. And um, there's still a part of me that has a hard time believing these people are real. Like it's just that fascinating world. What it reminded me the most this time of, or I think what it made me want to watch the most again, was True Stories. David Byrne's True Stories. You guys have both seen that, right?
Yes.
I haven't seen that, no.
Like, while it's fictional, it's such a homemade story about these endearing characters. Like, you know what I mean, Mike? It's like there's like these like characters who just live in this world, and you can look down on it or you can whatever, but like it's so genuine and it's so completely earnest. And that's what I really took away from the movie this time, was just like I love that they have this world for themselves and for each other. And even though there are these themes of, addiction, obviously, and there's questionable elements in Mark and Mike's lives that draw us to them as people. Um, like you said, his unrelenting filmmaking passion is so admirable, and his just frankly irresponsible refusal to give up on
Yeah.
what he's doing. Like, lives are at stake, and he's just like, nah, man, nah, I gotta shoot this. I gotta shoot this footage. Like, it's just like it's a triumph. The movie is just like, against all odds, it's this like complete triumph that you can laugh at, but I just find it so endearing.
Like as I get older and I watch it now, I'm also very taken with uh, everyone around him, from his family and his friends. Just a level of support that they
Right.
give him, and they all get sucked into. I mean, even people he doesn't really know get just sucked into his enthusiasm, and they all want to drop what they're doing and help, even in their own ways. Even Uncle Bill, who
Yeah.
you
Good old Uncle
know.
Bill. That'll be
Yeah.
me one day.
um,
I'm wondering, I used to listen pre F this movie to this horror podcast, and one of the guys, it wasn't his real name, obviously, but he took on the moniker Uncle Bill. And I'm just like, it had to have been from American Movie, and I just never knew this. Yeah, one thing I loved, kind of going along with what you were saying, is Mark mentions we're living the American dream, and it's meant to be kind of like a little bit of a comedic moment, because he's talking to Uncle Bill. And even though Uncle Bill has like kind of a pretty, sad answer to that. But the thing that's cool about it is, like, in Mark's mind, he did achieve his version of the American dream, and that it's not a brass ring, it's not fame and fortune, it's finishing COVID and like it being successful enough where he can start working on his next project. And I just find that so endearing that it doesn't have to be like this big showy success. Like somebody's version of the American dream could be something relatively small in scale.
I showed this to my daughters. This was maybe a year ago. Um, and I think it was the one of the first or second times that Mike was on the screen. My oldest daughter turned to me and was like, "I'm sorry, this is real?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, these people, this is real."
I just like totally fell in love with Mike Shank in this
Yeah.
movie. He was, I mean, Mark Borchardt is the heart of and soul of the movie, but my favorite moment in the movie, and it's one of my favorite moments in a movie that I've seen in a long time, is when Mike comes over. I think it's for the Super Bowl, but he comes over and he's just grinning, and it's because he won the Scratchers.
$50.
And he's just like, doesn't want to say it. And then Mark's just like, "What'd you bring over?" And he's like, "Soda." And like, Mark says, and he makes a point of saying this, and this is why I love it. He says, when you're around, you just make me happy. I'm just always happy when you're around. And that's something that's just like such a beautiful sentiment. And it's not something that you often hear in movies, especially between two men. And I think that that is just beautiful. And like you kind of said it earlier, like Mike's answer to Mark on that is that because you're doing it, I'm doing it. I want to be around you. It's like these people just want to be around each other. And it doesn't matter if it's making a movie or watching the Super Bowl or like doing any of this, whatever. And Joan is hot.
She's ride or die too. Like she's totally just like,
She
yeah,
is.
we're gonna splice that footage all night, baby.
And I also don't think, I know there are people that think Chris Smith and the filmmakers in the movies making fun of these
No,
people. I do not think that at all.
I totally
I
disagree
think,
with that.
I think they love them.
Yeah, I think that they are representing. Honestly, they're letting the audience come to their own conclusions, but I think they're definitely on his side. I think they're definitely supporting.
Yeah, it's in between the frames, but like you can tell that there's a lot of care and kindness going on.
And speaking of the songs, I love that. I want to give a shout out to Mike Shank, who did the music for the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the music's awesome.
Yeah, I was in the opening credits for Coven. I was just like, it's not Mike Shank who did the composition, but I was just like, immediately this has a better score than most movies that I see recently.
Right. I love this movie.
No,
Yeah.
it's great. And it was so much fun to rewatch. It's been a long time. And I'm really enjoying, I don't know what it's been the last few months. There have been certain rewatches we've done where I guess I've just shifted over enough into a new phase in my life that like there are some rewatches that are really hitting me really differently. Even the movies I've seen, a ton in the past, like this one just really hit me hard and in a good way, like in a good, just like you can like, don't let them tell you can't, kind of thing, like really strong.
Yeah, I'm so happy I finally caught up with this. I think that in true 1999 fashion, if you were to double feature this with another 99 movie, I think it would be kind of an interesting one with Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, it'd have to be the Blair Witch Project, totally. Yeah.
Shit, I thought I was being clever.
Well, you tipped your hand when you said in true 1999 fashion. I was like, oh, well.
There's a lot of movies that came out in 1990. Right. Well, Mike, thank you so much for suggesting this movie. It was great. If anybody out there is like me and has never seen it, definitely watch it. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Where can you watch Coven? Is it it's streaming somewhere?
It's on YouTube.
Oh,
it's not like a great copy, but like it's good enough to watch.
Watch Coven. Watch Mike's films.
Mm-hmm. Are those on YouTube or Vimeo?
No, they're on Vimeo. I've been toying with the idea of putting it on YouTube. I should just do it.
We'll include some links and stuff to Vimeo, to wherever we can watch them.
We'll review them on reserve seating. Anyways, thank you so much. We're going to be back next week with the second of Mike's picks. And of course, I'm going to let Mike introduce it. What are we watching next?
We are gonna watch Swingers next.
Yeah.
Doug Liman directed Swingers.
Shit, did that movie mean a lot to me in the 90s?
Oh, same. Oh, I can't.
So until next time.
Man, you don't want to be up all night calling Taiwan or Thailand, whatever it is,
Or Taiwan.
or Taiwan. You want to be sitting in these seats, which are reserved.
Speaking of Taiwan, I watched Goodbye Dragon Inn, which is from Taiwan, and I texted Mike a screenshot from the trailer where there was a pull quote that said the best movie of the last 125 years.